Welcome, everybody. My name is Ray Kuhl. I'm CEO of PBSI Technology Solutions. The purpose of today's webinar is to discuss probably the single most important topic of any topic that we will address in these training series, and that is email security training. Email security is by far the most frequently breached area that leads to damage and theft and access to practice information in healthcare. So I want to thank our partners and friends at the Academy of Medicine for sponsoring and recognizing the importance of these series. The information that we're sharing is entirely geared and intended for training and education. We want to inform, we want to improve knowledge about electronic security. We want to provide practical information about what to change and how to do so. So first topic we covered, security essentials and overview. Today we're going to talk about email security training. As I say, probably single most important topic. If I were going to have other staff listen to one recording, this would be it. We'll cover other topics in detail. You can still register for upcoming webinars, but today, email security training. So I'm going to start with what are the fundamentals of email security, how to spot dangerous emails. We'll go through several examples, which I believe you'll find helpful. We'll talk about email and PHI. Important that everybody understands what not to do and what to do. And then I'm going to do a very short demonstration of a security tool that I highly recommend for those of us who use email. So I want to thank those of you who have been long-term clients of PBSI, and many of you Academy members and long-term partners have worked with us for years, and you know who we are. For many of you, this is your first encounter with PBSI. We're a technology services provider. We have for years provided services for the Academy and for hundreds of members. We have hundreds of healthcare providers in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana who are clients. Our home is Cincinnati, so the local community, including those who are members of the Academy of Medicine, are our home base. Most important thing for me as CEO to be able to say about PBSI is I am blessed we have such a large number of very experienced staff. 75% of our staff have been with us for 10 years or more, and I know that knowledge helps clients. Main focus of our business, IT and IT security, including proactive monitoring. So I'm going to start by attempting to scare you. You who are attending today are, quote, the smart ones in the room. You know that security is important, and you presumably are attending today because you are interested in learning something you may not know, or to supplement knowledge that you already have. You already know that the internet is a dangerous place. We're going to talk about email today, and context for email security. I want to identify why email and email exposures are so dangerous. I'm going to do a dark web exposure check. So this exposure check that I'm about to do is something we have access to as a security provider that other folks don't. We're going to go to the dark web, the bad side, the place where you can only go if you have access to a Tor browser and things you don't want to know about. But the reason I'm going to go here is to do a credential search for exposed email addresses. And I'm going to use PBSI, our own high security firm, as the basis for this query. And I just did a query, and it says that there were 56 exposures of PBSI live passwords, and I'm now going to show you who they are. So it wants me to set up two-factor authentication, and yes, I will do that, but no, I won't do it now. Thank you. So the places where our passwords have been exposed are varied. They've been exposed through LinkedIn, Dropbox. We don't always learn where these exposures take place, but what you're seeing is these are live PBSI names, And in the password column, if there's something that looks reasonable, that's a real password that was exposed. In the cracked password column, this is one where the password wasn't exposed in plain text, but it was cracked. You're seeing is passwords that were exposed, in most cases, years and decades ago. Some of these folks don't work at PBSI anymore. How does this happen? It happens because one of us stores our login and password on a, quote, trusted website. That happened with Experian, and that happened with Athena, or excuse me, Aetna, Anthem. It's happened with recently the company that services Quest Labs, exposed over 100 million new contacts. The fact is that we can't really, none of us, we cannot avoid the fact that a password and email combination that we've used in the past has been exposed. And because it's on this list, it means it's available for sale at pennies per, probably less than a penny each, for anyone who's a bad guy to go out there and buy. And people buy these just all the time. If we did a search instead of PBSINet, if we did a search for gmail.com, we would find over 400 million exposed cracked passwords. Translation, and the reason for that demonstration is to make clear that it's likely that our passwords have already been exposed. And we're happy to do for free, contact us, we'll do this for free for you, your own domain, and we'll check how many exposed passwords you have. When I did this years ago for PBSI and I saw my own, what used to be my normal password exposed, I was shocked. It changed my security life forever. And so the question is then, if we know that not just you and not just me, but our other staff have exposed passwords out there, what does that mean? If they haven't changed those passwords, then somebody has the keys to the kingdom to get into our network. They can log into our email and take over from there, and that happens really frequently. So what I'm going to go through now are some principles. There is an attachment that we will send to each of you at the conclusion of this webinar that describes these fundamentals of security on one page. So there are 4 basic principles. First of all, in evaluating email, everybody needs to have a heads up to understand there's a difference between unsolicited and solicited email. So what this means is unsolicited is unrequested and unexpected, even if it's from a known source. So if you receive an email from Ray and you know Ray, but you're not sure why Ray sent you this email or sent it now, you have to understand that was unsolicited. Now, if you know you're going to get a webinar invite from PBSI, yeah, it's unsolicited, but it's not unexpected necessarily. But somebody you know well, maybe it's PBSI, maybe it's Ray, maybe it's the Academy of Medicine, you get an email that is unsolicited, you just need to look at it with different eyes. This is true of all of us. And we ask, is there anything unusual about this email? Many of us have seen really brief emails from somebody we know. I've gotten these from my daughter and from my daughter-in-law, and it's something brief that says, thought you'd be interested. Check this out. Thought of you when I saw this. Something that the context is hard to discern, and we have to ask, why did this person send this email to me? And anything that causes pause, stop. Is there any reason I need to click on this email at all? Certainly, why do I need to do it? Now, I'll talk about what do we do if we have questions about an email, but first, we have to look at unsolicited email as different than solicited. Malware is frequently delivered from a name that's familiar, but it's not really them. So principle number 2, antenna up in general. Does anything seem amiss? Most of us know to hover over the email address. We hover it over and it shows us what the address really is beneath it. Checking the time of day it was sent to me, the recipient list. Frequently, if we see a short list of other recipients that we know the sender knows, but I don't necessarily know, it's just a heads up. Brief content, something that's out of character, misspelling, grammar mistakes, unusual phrasing, colors, formatting, font variations. The fact is that a lot of spam and malware comes from within the United States, but a high percentage, if you noticed the map on the screen that I had up earlier, I won't return to that screen, but it had a map of the world, and it shows that a very significant percentage of emails that show up in our inboxes are really from China, North Korea, Russia, places that you might not expect, like Chile and Brazil. So non-native speakers tend to make mistakes that English native speakers won't make. They're just little clues, and so our eyes need to be open to little clues. Okay, so principle number 3, don't get news from your email. I'm going to show you a couple examples of true fake news, things that really never happened, but they were very surprising. This is basically the idea is you get an email that includes nudes, do not click on that email, period. Instead, go to your news source, go to USA Today, go to wherever you get your news and look there, but don't get it from within the email. I remember when I actually got the email that says the day that the airline passenger was thrown off the airline for an inappropriate reason, I got this email that said the CEO of United resigned. And I remember thinking, wow, really? It never happened. He didn't resign. Same things happen multiple times. So where is this most likely to be used? It's likely to be used around topics of interest, current events, product releases, tax time, disasters, holidays, celebrity news, product releases, things where it's most likely possibly, so-and-so just won the World Series when the game might not be over. I mean, that's the kind of thing we see all the time. Okay, secondly, same idea, beware of social media. Popular sites are rife with phishing scams. Your friends are not foolproof, and furthermore, Facebook and the like do, I believe, try to vet advertisers, but they don't necessarily vet every ad, and therefore there can be and frequently is content that's embedded. You think, well, this is on AOL. I got this link from AOL. You think that must make it safe. Nope, not necessarily. So social media, and it's true of other news sites as well. Once you get in more than one link deep, just be very careful what you're clicking on. Something too good to be true. I would love to think that Amazon was sending me a free $50 gift card, but I'm just not going to click on that. Why does somebody want me to be curious? Don't get your news from your email. Okay, another that is less commonly known, careful with unsubscribe. Unsubscribe is fine if you're certain that the source is credible. If I signed up with Macy's is having a one day, and I want to unsubscribe from that, and I'm pretty sure Macy's has been continuing to send these because they keep having one days, fine, unsubscribe, it's okay. But unless you're certain, then the better method is, if you're using Outlook, right click and choose junk, then block sender. Same result, you will receive no more emails from that source, but what the bad guys do frequently is they use unsubscribe as a way to confirm, this is a real email address. I didn't know if there was a ray.cool@pbsinet.com or just an r.cool or an r and so forth. They send to addresses that may be good and bad, and they don't know which ones are good, but once you unsubscribe, then they know they have something real and they're more likely to try additional attacks. So careful with unsubscribe. I basically don't unsubscribe to many things anymore. I pretty much block sender. That way they're not notified. Okay, so some important principles. Again, you'll receive a summary of these. Some other things to understand about email, some helpful things. Hover over links, not just email addresses, because a link, as most everybody knows today, can be a short summation. And just because it says ups.com on the link, when you hover over it, it might be us.ups.shipping.something.com, and it might seem like UPS, but it's not. And there are ways to check these. Scanurl.net is one. There are others. Recommendation is, if you're uncertain when you're going through some of these routines, checking spellings and unexpected content and extensions that don't just look quite right, have somebody you can forward an email to and ask, is this okay? So we do this at PBSI for clients for free, and we treat them as priorities. Clients will forward an email saying, is this one okay to click on? And we'll go through our routine and email back either, yes, it's okay, no, it's not okay. Particularly, very, very common, folks use security as, and folks who, they know that many of us are concerned about security. So one of the best ways to get somebody who's concerned about security to respond is tell them they have a security problem. Please confirm that it's really you. Please reset your account. Even if they know the last 4 digits of your credit card or the last 4 of your social or other personal information, this information can be available out there because they know that information does not make them a legitimate vendor. So if you think a request may be legitimate, instead of clicking, go directly to the site. You get a message from Amex that says you have a problem, don't click it. Go to amex.com, log into your account, and if you have a warning, it will be there on your account. So always think twice. There are just so many bad things that happen from email. Caution, caution. Okay, common spoofs. Anything related to current events. Tax season's coming at a certain time of year. You'll get your IRS account needs to be reset, or confirm your PIN number before the bad guys file your tax return. Apple, Gmail, Microsoft, there are variations on all of these. Your account needs to be renewed, or we've determined an unusual activity with your account. Reset your password now. That might be true. Log into your account and see if a password reset is requested, but don't do it by clicking on a text or an email. If you have any concern you've made a mistake, change your password. So why is this true? If somebody has access to your account, once you change your password, they no longer have access to your account. So if you think you've done something, oh, I shouldn't have clicked on that, change the password associated with that account. And I'm going to talk more about passwords, a very important topic. Conversation about email is not complete until you've also had conversations about passwords. I'm not going to discuss passwords in this webcast, but password management is critically linked to email security. Okay, I'm going to go through some examples now. Some of these are very new, some of these are old. We get an email that says we have a fax. Click here to view the fax. Or in this case, this would have resulted in a ransomware message with Bitcoin needed to pay the bill. Security warning. Amazon has detected you entered the wrong password. This fraud was added by me. Is this really you? Do not click on that. Right after the Spectre meltdown, January of 2017 or 18, I forget which, 18. This was announced right at the end of December, 1st of January, and I got this email in early January that said, you may have read about this vulnerability, don't click there, blah, 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 follow the instructions in the link below. These are the bad guys saying, I think I can find somebody who has a security concern and we'll try to, quote, help them. Shipping confirmation, these are well established. You've missed your shipment, you have something on the way to you, that's exciting, don't click. Go to, if you get an email from the vendor from Amazon or Target or wherever you ordered something, and they're offering a link in a reply email, that's not unsolicited. You ordered something and you received something from them that gave you a link to shipping confirmation. That's much different than an independent email coming to you and you're thinking, ooh, I don't know, maybe my wife ordered something. Don't click. Fake news. Here's the one I mentioned about the United Airlines pilot. I also received this in my email saying that the person who drove his car into the crowd, this was on the day of the trial conclusion, saying he was acquitted by the grand jury. I remember seeing this and thinking, no, that can't be true. Well, he wasn't acquitted, but the email said he was. So here's an example of a good email. This is from my bank, Huntington, where they're sending me information and there's no link to click. Now, some banks do include links to click, so it doesn't mean that all these, but it's hard to discern. Here's one from Citibank that's not really from Citibank, and the link is bad. So the best advice is you get something from your bank, go to the website or go to their app and get your information there. Emails from trusted sources, this is increasingly violated. Goodwill, this came out right after a event in San Francisco, and it made it real easy here. Click on one of these to choose my donation amount. Boy, that's really easy, but this was a scam. You would have lost your money and who knows what else. Taking advantage of likely trusted relationships. So I have a Kroger account. We have a business in Cincinnati. It was not unlikely when I got this email that says, selected several businesses to participate in a program, click here. No, this was not from Kroger. So hopefully you get the idea. caution, cautious. Email signature request, unless you know that it's coming, stay away. Fix my credit score, stay away. Microsoft security message, your information's out of date. I mean, some of these are just very, very clever. And the entire message here is really, really be cautious. Always look at the URL and the extensions of the URL. Check addressee specificity. So a scam that omits names or dear user, again, nothing's universal here, but the fact is these little details are important. Your message couldn't be delivered, as opposed to your message to this address couldn't be delivered. That's just paying attention to the specificity. Is it possible that this email that I've received was mass emailed to a bunch of people to try and trap one of us? So what can we do? Education. We offer security education, and again, this is not about selling PBSI services, but we've spent years paying attention to what are the best tools on the market. We're a reseller for a company called KnowBe4. KnowBe4 offers fantastic education. They do HIPAA training, the documents training, they do security training, and for $3 a month, you can't sign up for this unless you have at least 100 users, except for, because PBSI is a reseller, we can help organizations with 2 and 3 and 5 and 10 people use the same education for very low cost. But in whatever manner you do it, make sure staff is educated. It's a difficult process. So one thing we've learned is that complete education and expecting that every employee and our latest employee that we hired are all really up to snuff and are paying attention to things like this, it's virtually impossible. So I am really high, and as a company, we are really high on this security product from Microsoft called Advanced Threat Protection. $2 a month if you have an Office 365 or an Exchange Online account. What this does, and I'll do a short demonstration, is it protects from damage when clicks take place. It's so frustrating every time we get yet another customer who's had a ransomware attack. And we either think, we've been offering training, really this is so important, and how could this happen? Well, once that click takes place, that account would gladly have rewound the clock and paid $2 a month for all their employees to have this click protection. So I'm going to do a short demonstration of this here in a minute. But first, I'm going to move on from email security principles to a short discussion about what we can and can't do by email when it comes to PHI. So encryption is the topic, and the very next webcast we do next week will go into some details. So I'm going to basically touch on this subject. The fact is, in a healthcare environment, we may not send PHI or PII via email. It is not secure. Gmail is not secure. Outlook, no matter what email program we use, it's not secure unless we've made a specific provision to secure it. So what is email file encryption? It is a term where the information is garbled. When email is sent out, like it or not, Google search engines, there are tools out there on the internet that scan through every piece of traffic looking for things that are useful. So how does NSA know that the word jihad is used in an email from one person to another? Because it's all available to scan. So if you're looking for social security numbers or information that looks like it's an ICD code, you can grab selected data from the quadrillions of bits of information that go out there, and the only way to prevent it is to encrypt or garble the data that's sent. So it's not difficult and it's not expensive. It's just important to understand. First, we must not, without HIPAA violation and compromising our own patients, we may not send PHI or electronic PHI via email. And that includes attachments to email unless they are encrypted. So the methods of encryption, and again, I'll be brief with this because we have limited time. We'll discuss this in the encryption and Wi-Fi security webcast that's coming up. We have the choice of encrypting the email, which we can do with this advanced threat protection and, advanced Azure Information Protection for $2 a month. We can encrypt the email. We can encrypt attachments, and we'll cover this in the upcoming webcast. You can encrypt at no extra cost any Word file, Excel file, or PDF. Even with free PDF Reader, you can encrypt a PDF, and that you can then attach to an email securely. So you can encrypt the email or encrypt the attachments, or use a secure file sharing portal like CPA firms and banks use, where a VPN tunnel is created before a file is transferred. So that's not really email, but these are basically the choices that we have. So I'm now going to do a very short demonstration of Office 365, which I'm going to say there are choices, and I won't go into the details, but in order to use either Advanced Threat Protection, that's click proofing, or Azure Information Protection, that's encryption, each of those are $2 a month options, and the base that you need before that is a $4 a month Exchange Online account. So PBSI can set this. We administer this for just hundreds of accounts. The idea is, with Advanced Threat Protection, what happens is if a click takes place in an email, Microsoft sends it to a separate place, to a sandbox in the cloud, and it explodes it and does fully what it would do. And if there's a bad result, the user simply gets back a message that says, that wasn't a good thing to do. No damage, no ransomware, simply a message. Same thing happens with an attachment that's open, so well worth $2 a month. Encryption of email, that's what AIP is about. So I'm going to quickly go to my own email, and I'm going to go down to a subfolder I have for security, and I'm going to find a bad email. So it's going to go to my history, and it's going to find an email that came into my inbox from our security administrator saying you can test this. So this is a bad link. I have this Advanced Threat Protection, and if you notice when I have my cursor hovered here, how the beginning of the real URL has name 03 safe links. Safe links is what Microsoft adds. So I'm going to click on this bad link, and instead of getting a virus, it simply says that was malicious, close this page. That's all there is to it. I was covered by my inexpensive protection. Same thing with a document that's attached. So I had a client who called me and said, hey, I'm trying to open a document from a former employee. Can you help me? And after a short description, I said, forward that email to me. He did. I opened the document, and it said, nope, bad attachment, which I pretty much knew from having the conversation with the client. So that is such a benign event compared to what would have happened had I not had this $2 a month ATP. Okay, one last thing. We're almost finished with content. I want to demonstrate encrypting an email. So I have $2 a month Azure Information Protection. I'm going to send an email to my wife. She'll be surprised to get this because I really don't do this in demonstration. And I'm going to send her an email that I'm going to encrypt. The way I encrypt it is with an option. I can do this because I have this $2 a month option. I'm going to say, I want to encrypt this. She's surely going to contact me and say, what are you sending me? And with that, I can make any attachment. I can include any content. When I send this, then she gets an email that says, you have a message from Ray. You need to enter this passcode or log into your secure account in order to read that email. And that's all there is to it. It's very simple. And it works cleanly, $2 a month. So folks in the practice who might benefit from that feature would be folks who need to send clinical information to referring sources, potentially patients, folks who need to communicate financial information that has HR, Social Security numbers, or dates of birth of employees. So not many people in the office generally need this information protection, but I wanted, in the context of this email security, to cover this. So we're finished with content, but I just want to summarize safety principles: solicited versus unsolicited. Keep your antenna up. Don't get news from email. Don't unsubscribe unless you're really, really certain. Don't click on anything or open anything without running through the caution steps of hovering and really carefully evaluating, and then consider adding inexpensive email protection to your arsenal. Again, thank you to the Academy for the important understanding that clients need security information. I'm sure for some of you this was more information than you needed, but for some of you, I hope everybody has gained something. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your support of the Academy. We're finished with content. Hope everybody has a good day.